MidDays, SuperTalk Mississippi, live today from the Mississippi Armed Forces Museum at Camp Shelby. It's Memorial Day coming up in a couple of days. We hope you have a great, enjoyable weekend, but please remember to honor those who paid the ultimate sacrifice for our freedoms. That's what we do on Memorial Day. We take a little time off, and like the Colonel said earlier, it's more than just barbecues. It's time that we respect and remember those who paid it all for our freedoms. When joining us now, Tommy Lofton, director of the Mississippi Armed Forces Museum. Tommy, good to see you again, sir, and great to be here. It's just a fantastic facility. You guys do a great job.
Thank you.
Telling the story of Mississippians who have served in our armed forces. That's what this museum's all about.
And it's easy to do because Mississippi has such a rich heritage of military service, and we have so many people to be proud of and thankful for. And so it's actually the hardest part's just trying to figure out how to put things on display and choose when and where, and you can't put everything out all the time, so that's one of the hardest decisions you have to make. But we do our best to honor anyone and everyone we can that's worn the uniform, but then especially those who've paid the ultimate sacrifice from Mississippi. So, yeah, it's an honor to have you all here today, and glad to have you back.
So do you think, just to catch on that point, that it's because Mississippians in general are patriotic, love their country, and understand when they're called to serve the solemnity of that duty?
Sure. I think if you look back to even before we were a state, in an incorporated sense, Mississippians were lining up to go down to New Orleans and fight with Andrew Jackson and keep the British at bay. And, we've got obviously quite a bit of history on multiple fronts and multiple armies, if you will, and things. But, yeah, I think as Mississippians, we're quite proud of our state, of our people, and it is important for us to be sure to take part in anything and everything that we can do to preserve our freedom and defend our state and our country. And I think that, again, we've got a lot more to be proud of than sometimes we realize.
Absolutely.
And maybe that more to be proud of than others appreciate, maybe from outside Mississippi.
I think that's right. So Memorial Day, of course, always big around here at the Armed Forces Museum. What about the ceremonies today?
Sure.
Tell us about that.
So, every Friday going into Memorial Day weekend, we try to have a ceremony to set the tone for the weekend and remind folks what Memorial Day is actually about, which is to honor the fallen. This year, we actually, on the heels of the Vietnam event we had a few weeks ago here, we picked a Vietnam soldier who was killed in action. He was from Jackson, named Specialist 4 Joe Henry Brown. And Specialist Brown left behind a beautiful wife and little girl, went over to serve in Vietnam and had been over a few months in country when he was killed in February 1968 in a pretty horrific battle with the Viet Cong. They estimated we had about 200 soldiers holding that forward base there in the Mekong Delta area, about 40 miles outside of southwest of Saigon. He operated a machine gun there, was of course, killed in action defending that base. 200 soldiers were overrun by 500 Viet Cong, or almost overrun, I should say, but they actually pushed them back and did such a great job in defending that site, where there were 4 artillery pieces there, that there were no further attacks. I think the Vietnamese had pretty much given up after that. They'd thrown everything they could right there at that position, and those 155 batteries had been opening up on them and just, giving them massive casualties up to that point. So they made every effort to try to capture those guns and either use them against us or to steal them, actually. And in defending that site, he actually heroically gave of his life and actually earned posthumously a Silver Star for his actions there. Yeah. So we actually have his medals and a photograph of him here on display. We found that his widow passed away in 2012. He and his wife are both buried there in Jackson. Have not been able to find his daughter yet, but we're still trying. Hopeful that she's maybe listening or finds out about this, but we did move forward with honoring her father today. And he is a hero, and he's one of our favorite heroes here in the museum.
Wow. The World War II vets are of course, aging out. Not many of those heroes remaining with us. But still, of course, a large contingent of Vietnam vets Do you see that they'll come to the museum and tour it? And if so, what sort of reaction?
You know, I was actually talking about this the other day, and it is sad. We've lost so many of our World War II veterans. You know, we had 16.5 million men and women that served in World War II. Wow. I think we're at probably about 100 and maybe, if we're lucky, 120,000 still left in the country.
Wow.
Same is true for Korea. We don't even have a Medal of Honor recipient from World War II or Korea anymore. They're all gone. So, and Vietnam are fading fast as well, especially when you consider what all they were exposed to with Agent Orange and so many other things. But it's interesting. You see World War II veterans coming through here many years ago and going through with their family members and telling, sometimes for the first time, about their experience. You see that now with Vietnam. I've come through the exhibits several times and had Vietnam veterans standing there, and it's very clear. You can read the faces in the room or of their family members that they don't normally talk about this. And as soon as they cross through that doorway and they see the Huey helicopter and the mannequins and the artifacts and all of that, it brings some of them back. And it's fascinating to kind of walk through and meet those individuals or have them share their stories or, even turn over artifacts, stuff they've stowed away in an attic and didn't think anybody cared about. That's what we're building our Vietnam exhibits on and things. So, wow. I'm glad that they're finally opening up, and it's important that we continue to tell their story. Obviously, it was not an easy war, but they did what they were called to do, and they weren't necessarily received in the best way when they came home. Yeah. The other day we had probably one of our only surviving POWs from Vietnam, Thomas Collins, right here in the exhibits, and for the first time, as I understood it, he donated his artifacts years ago, but he'd never actually seen them until he was here the other day. Wow. And it was fascinating to sit there and talk to him about it, see the grin on his face, and share that moment with his granddaughter standing there and his caregiver and folks. And soldiers were crowding around and realizing who he is and why this is an important moment. And I thought, this is beautiful. This is unique. This is something that we can continue to share. And it's sadly something that's going away rapidly right now as we're losing more and more of our Vietnam veterans and veterans from other wars.
Well, I think it's good that they feel comfortable in an environment, in a setting like this, where they're willing to talk about it, because they're walking history books.
That's exactly right. And if they don't talk about it, there's so much history that's going to be lost. Yeah. And so, we do our best to try to make them feel comfortable, all of our veterans feel honored and respected, and we want them to feel just as at home in this museum as they do in their own home. Sure. This museum is the state's official museum for military history, and we want them to feel that we do, as a state, respect their service, respect their sacrifice, or their friends that literally sacrificed of themselves or family members. And so it's a huge honor for us to have folks come through here, and also to have folks recognize, hey, this guy was in my high school class, or folks come through the GWAT exhibits even, and we had a group here from Christ Covenant a few weeks ago touring the museum, and a few of the little girls looked up at Casey Casanova's case and was like, oh, there's a girl Marine, and we're fascinated by her, and then fascinated to hear of her sacrifice in May of 2008, and how she gave her life for her state and country. Before. So that's right, you have. So that's also been the neat thing for me, seeing all the young folks come through here. We've had just as many, if not more. I think we actually have had more school groups now than we did even before COVID this year, which is awesome. Phenomenal. Yeah. And so many young people coming through with such an eager interest to learn more. Sure, they get exposure in video games, other things too, but you actually have teachers out there, thankfully, in our state who recognize the need and the importance to continue to teach history. So much so they're turning their classrooms into World War I trenches or foxholes and other things when they teach history lessons. And it resonates with the kids so much more. And they appreciate so much more of what they're learning about and the stories of the men and women in Mississippi who have served and worn the uniform, or those who've paid the ultimate sacrifice.
Well, imagine talking about Vietnam and Huey helicopters, the icon of Vietnam, and then coming here and seeing one in the museum, exactly in the exhibit.
Right. And there were several of those kids who's like, hey, my uncle or my grandfather or whatever, or great-grandfather even served in Vietnam and flew one of these, or was wounded and taken off the battlefield in one of these. And so that's always an iconic thing, obviously for the veterans, but also for the young people. Yeah. And, that's why we do what we do, and we're here.
No doubt about it.
We hope that folks will take the time to, if you're not doing anything for Memorial Day and you're looking for something to do or something to bring a sense of patriotism into your family for the holiday, we'll actually be open that day, 9
on
to
Memorial
4.
Day.
So our normal hours are Tuesday through Saturday from 9 to 4, and we're free. But we're actually open on patriotic holidays, 4th of July, Memorial Day, Veterans Day. So
Sure.
if you're not doing anything, come see us.
Yeah, and we're going to talk again later on in the program, and we'll get you to talk about how one gains access to come to the museum and what that's all about. And also, I want to find out from you what's on the horizon, because I know you guys are always planning new stuff as well.
Fred Shanks was asking me that last night. So shout out to Fred
Representative Fred Shanks. We got you there, buddy. We're taking a break right here. Appreciate it, Tom. We'll talk to you in a minute.
We'll see you again.
Yep. We're coming right back with more here from the Mississippi Armed Forces Museum at Camp Shelby. Stay with us. This is Museum at Camp Shelby. It is the Friday before the long Memorial Day weekend. We welcome back to the program Tommy Lofton, the Executive Director for the Mississippi Armed Forces Museum. We appreciate you, of course, for having us down again. Tommy, what a fantastic facility this is, and you had ceremonies this morning.
Yeah, we had quite the turnout, and we're quite pleased with the crowd that we had. It's been pretty busy with ceremonies and other things around Camp Shelby lately, so we were a little nervous this morning. But, heck, we even had a group of the French show up. So
saw that.
French soldiers and everything. So, it's a great day at the Mississippi Armed Forces Museum.
What did they say about being here in Mississippi and at Camp Shelby and, of course, this fabulous museum?
I didn't get to talk to them long, but they seemed impressed with what we have. They actually went through the exhibits, and I think we're moved from what I could see in what we do to honor. And, of course, they do a great job honoring our fallen in places like Normandy and other places within their country. From our perspective, I think some of the cemeteries that we have over there and partner with the French on are some of the most beautiful and sacred places on this earth.
Yeah.
It was an honor to have them surprise us with being here and showing support to their allies as well.
So this kind of kicks off the summer season. What's on tap here at the Armed Forces Museum?
So we are doing a few things. We've been making some improvements on some of our exhibits. We're actually getting a new roof right now. So as they've had to work in certain sections, we have to close off certain exhibits so that material and debris aren't falling on our visitors. But as we shut those areas down, we've been starting this process. But this summer, we're actually working on revamping and redoing some of our World War II exhibits, adding to more on the home front and the contributions that Mississippi and Mississippians made in preparing for World War II, and then also sustaining scrap drives and other donations and things like that, plus getting into draft and volunteerism during World War II. So we'll have some improvements there, improvements coming on various aspects of our exhibits, artifacts from the 442nd coming out, some new things on the Pacific War itself especially, and do some more with the Holocaust. And we've actually got a German Nebelwerfer, a rocket launcher, if you will, or some sort of an artillery piece in a sense from World War II that is quite unique. We're in the process of restoring and putting that out on display. That'll be probably more like this fall. And I'm actually in a process right now of redoing and revamping our Civil War exhibits to add some more artifacts from Vicksburg and from Corinth and Champion Hill and a number of our battles. But interestingly enough, artifacts not just from the Confederacy, but also Union veterans that fought for the state of Mississippi, to include a musket that we just got in a couple of weeks ago that we've identified to the Battle of Vicksburg at Milliken's Bend that belonged to a member of the 11th Louisiana Colored Troops. So a former slave came across the river, was briefly trained, put a uniform on, grabbed this weapon and went in and fought at Vicksburg. And he actually took on the buttstock of this musket, carved his initials and his unit information. Wow. And so we'll be putting that on display in the near future as well. Quite a unique piece. And some other artifacts that'll be, I think, pretty interesting.
How do you come across all this incredible items? Do you go around, do you try to research, find out, and then try to figure out a way to contact individuals associated with it? Or do you have people that come forward and say, look, I'd like for you guys to have it, or a little of both?
Yes,
probably?
to everything.
Yeah, okay.
We have donors that come forward. Some of it folks saying, look, I have a family member who collected these things, or this belonged to them when they were in the service, or whatever. Unfortunately, a lot of things arrive to us after a veteran has passed away, and maybe their spouse or family member says, look, this was in a closet, don't know what to do with it, but I don't want to throw it away, thankfully. So we get artifacts that route. We are able, thanks to our foundation board, you actually talked to our foundation president earlier, Mark Crine. They've been very supportive in allowing us to occasionally purchase some artifacts, but also any donations and things made financially to the museum, we actually use to refurbish and build new exhibits and be able to bring these things forward. So, we don't do a lot of purchasing, but a lot of what we do is just donations off the street, or as we find, individuals who come through this museum, or they find out about us through SuperTalk and other means. They reach out and say, look, I've got my dad's stuff from Vietnam or World War II, that kind of thing.
All right, so talk about how one can visit the museum. What's involved with that?
So it is not as scary as some seem to think, as you've seen today. You come through our south gate. There's a visitor center there. Walk inside, have your ID scanned. Doesn't take very long. It's a pretty easy and painless process. It's harder harder to get on an airplane than it is to visit the museum. But have your ID scanned, go through the gate, come here to the museum, and feel free to venture through our exhibits. Again, Tuesday through Saturday from 9 to 4 are our regular hours, and we're free. You can't beat a free museum. And we encourage folks to take some time, bring your family members, especially as we hit the summer and it starts to get hot. We've been, the last few weeks especially, just inundated with school groups in here, so we've had a lot of people, I think, kind of staying away just to let the buses pull through. But now's the time. Come on out and feel free to engage with our staff and ask questions. And if we don't know the answer, we'll make up something that hopefully sounds good. I'm kidding. But
I know better than that. So will you host school groups even during the summer? Some districts are still on the semester system, and they're maybe in session, but a lot of them are out for the summer.
We do. Any school groups that are still functioning in that way, we encourage them to reach out to us, or we do have them come through. Some university groups, some summer school programs. We also have a lot of, your Boy Scout groups, Girl Scouts, Trail Life, things like that want to come out to Camp Shelby and maybe camp and go through the museum and do some interesting lessons on patriotism and other things. And so all summer long you see that. Plus you'll see folks, if you have an RV and you're passing up and down Highway 49 or heading to the coast, coming back from the coast, whatever, come stop in and see us.
And you've got the Camp Shelby itself. In addition to that, you have driving tour, hiking.
We do hiking tours. There's so many things to do out here. In fact, even some of our archaeologists and others out here have been working on putting signage out in historic places. So as you're on this driving tour or driving around Camp Shelby, you'll see a historic sign that shows you, as best we can show you, what a building used to look like that may have been there, whether it was a recreation facility or the headquarters for the Women's Army Corps program here, those kinds of things. So lots of history here that people, I think, don't realize that they can see or that even still exists.
No doubt about it. So was it last year, I believe, we had a lot of folks here, right, for training?
We did.
Is that every year? Or is that is it on an interval? I can't remember exactly, but
all the time.
I know they're, but the really
summertime for sure. You'll see a lot of units having their AT period.
Okay,
and then we have, all kinds of other activities and operations and training things going on here quite often, and a lot of soldiers come through from various states, and it's interesting to meet people from other states, especially that come in and go, man, I didn't know Mississippi has done this much, or we always had a different perspective or opinion of Mississippi back home, and now I kind of appreciate y'all more. So it's been great to find other folks, or maybe recruit other Mississippians for the future, that kind of thing. But Camp Shelby's a busy place. There's always training going on, and I think we have a lot to be proud of with having Camp Shelby here in the state of Mississippi. Brings a lot more revenue than people realize, and lots of jobs out here. And we're quite fortunate to have such a major infrastructure here for our nation and our state's defense as well.
No doubt about it. Do you sort of feel like that maybe the future of exhibits or new exhibits may be more involving Vietnam, just because they're starting to come forward more? That it's been a long period, of course, since the other wars in our history, and maybe that one's getting to the point where folks are starting to open up about it and willing to discuss it and perhaps make some of their artifacts available.
I think you will see more of that for sure. And frankly, we have some plans to hopefully do some new and exciting things. Maybe even build a new museum location. I'll go ahead and throw
I've heard that too.
Little nugget out there for folks that there's some exciting things in the works for the future of the Mississippi Armed Forces Museum. And as we look toward the future, our goal is to expand upon our exhibits. Since we opened over 20 years ago, we've collected so many more artifacts, especially World War I through today.
Yeah.
And I think you'll see even more on Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Iraq, Afghanistan. And our goals, too, are to do even more, too, with civil events within the state, whether it's, dealing with the 1960s with James Meredith or with hurricane response from the Mississippi National Guard, things like that. We've got a lot to be proud of in this state.
The point, of course, is that Mississippians have participated in all of those events.
Exactly right.
And that's what the museum does. It features all of those instances in our history and Mississippi's participation in it.
Tons of heroes here. The term hero is thrown around loosely out there, but if you want to see what real heroes are, come to the Mississippi Armed Forces.
No doubt about it. Tommy, good to talk to you as always. Appreciate it. Great job here at the museum, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah, glad to have you here. Thank you.
You got it. We're coming right back with a half an hour remaining in the afternoon portion of Middays. We're live at the Mississippi Armed Forces Museum at Camp Shelby.